The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will announce visa crackdowns for countries that refuse to take back illegal migrants as part of a swathe of tough new measures across the immigration system.
The overhaul is based on the current Danish model, which only grants short-term status to asylum seekers. Under the plans, asylum seekers would have to wait a lot longer to get British citizenship. The Asylum Minister Alex Norris joins us now. It's a whole raft of proposals. Very good morning to you. Are you acknowledging as a government that this country is a soft touch?
Susanna, Paul, thank you for having me this morning. Yeah, we're acknowledging the fact that if you take the last few years, asylum applications across Europe are going down, whereas in the UK they're up considerably. So, we know that human traffickers point to us as a golden ticket. We know that there are things that make this country attractive. I mean, we're the best country in the world, so of course we're attractive, but we know that there are things within our system that are too easy to game, that mean it's tempting for people to come illegally, which means that when people don't have legitimate reasons to be here, it's too hard to remove them. So we will be setting out our package today, the Home Secretary will, to tackle these challenges.
One of your proposals is that people would only be allowed to apply for indefinite leave to remain if they're an asylum seeker after 20 years. So they wouldn't be able to become British citizens for 2 decades. How would you imagine that would work as a deterrent? What would that stop people being able to do?
Well, we know at the moment people think that you can come to the UK, you will be able to get a quick route to citizenship, to settlement. You'll be able to access welfare, you'll be able to access the NHS. In the meantime, certainly while your claim's being assessed, you'll be able to work illegally, you'll be housed in a hotel. We're going to change these things. And we don't want people to sit there on, if they do have a granted claim, we're a generous, open and tolerant country that provides shelter for people who need it. But we don't want them to sit there at home after that. We want them to learn the language. We want them to, get into work. We want them to start building their lives because they've often fled terrible circumstances. So we want to deter people coming illegally and then sitting for long periods of time in the system.
But where are they going to sit then, if it's going to take them 20 years?
Well, first of all, don't come by an illegal route. The 20 years applies to someone who comes to this country.
Everything you've proposed so far hasn't stopped people coming illegally. Smash the gangs and stop the boats and everything else hasn't stopped people coming illegally. So people will still come, but what are you going to do? House them in army bases for 20 years?
No, well, that wouldn't be the goal. The reality is, at that point of settlement, at the point of having their claim accepted, they could enter into work. But the clear point here, Susanna, is don't come illegally. As part of today's statement, we're going to establish safe and legal routes, which means that people can come without that dangerous journey across Europe, without that dangerous journey across the Channel, and that way they'll have their quicker route towards settlement and citizenship. But what we're saying is that at the moment, quite rightly, the British people are fed up of a system where people can jump the queue, people can come with claims that aren't meritorious, this is being handled in an irregular way with that loss of control at our border. We don't think that's right. So we think that if you do come that way, then you shouldn't have a quick route to settlement. And I think that's the fair balance.
OK. Well, Minister, you're also talking today, or the Home Secretary will be announcing later today, reforms to human rights law to stop people from appealing and being able to stay here, particularly if they're illegal migrants or they're foreign criminals. I just want to put a specific case to you to try and understand what exactly you're going to change here. We reported earlier this year on ITV News an investigation into Brazilian fugitives who were coming to the UK despite having committed pretty heinous crimes. We're talking about alleged murder, paedophilia, and they were still able to stay here under human rights law because otherwise, if they were deported, they would allegedly face unfair conditions in Brazilian prisons. A particular case I want to put to you is Marlon Martins dos Santos. Now, he was sentenced for 14 years in prison, this is him, for repeatedly raping a 5-year-old girl. Sentenced to prison in Brazil. But by then, he'd come to the UK. Our judges let him stay here under Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights, as I say, because otherwise he might be unfairly treated in a Brazilian prison. And he then went on to re-offend. He downloaded 1,000 images of child abuse while working as a delivery driver in London. Would he still be allowed to stay under the reforms that you're announcing today?
Well, first of all, we will never allow a person with that offending history to have settlement or citizenship in this country.
But he was still allowed to stay here, Minister. He was allowed to stay here long enough to re-offend. So I don't know what the status is precisely that you're suggesting, but he was here. That's the point of it.
Yeah, Paul, that's exactly why we're doing the reforms we're doing today, that there is this third category, as it were, of people who aren't applying for asylum anymore or aren't appealing, they've been rejected, but at the moment still sit in a hotel accommodation, work illegally, for example, and our package is designed at tackling exactly that. For example, not to use a case of my own in response to yours, but there is a foreign national offender who is from Poland, who has a 5-year conviction for arson, and at the moment, the domestic interpretation of the ECHR means that he cannot be removed because he has a sibling in this country. That is clearly wrong. So with regards to Article 8, we have a much broader interpretation of it in British law and convention than the international obligation. We're going to define that much more tightly so people aren't able to use that. Article 3 is a slightly tougher situation.
It is a tougher situation.
We will never deport people into torture or persecution.
Right, so the paedophile will be allowed to stay then?
No.
The paedophile will be allowed to stay? Well, yes, he will, because you're saying you won't deport him when he's saying he'll face torture.
But if you let me finish this, generally, certainly with a country like Brazil, this is a safe country, the point will be that he will be relying on probably a degrading treatment element, which means that, and we're seeing that used in a way where individuals are saying, "Oh, I can't be removed to my home country because the mental health treatment is not as good as the mental health treatment I get in the UK," and that amounts to being mistreated by removal. At the moment, the courts are accepting that. We're making a commitment, and the Home Secretary will set out more today about our work with international partners to change that, because we know that that's not right. Now, these things don't always happen overnight. We've got many things in our package that are things that we're announcing and start today, other things that have a slightly longer lead-in time, but all of which will restore order and control and fairness to this system.
I think, Minister, it's obviously a case that Paul has expertise on, but from my reading of it, part of the reason that some of these individuals are appealing against being taken back to their home country is because they would face torture as a result of crimes they might have committed here in this country. It's almost, some people would think, well, isn't that sort of an incentive? Doesn't that make people think they can get away with things here because it's going to stop them being sent back to their own country on the basis that they might be tortured as a result of what they've done?
Well, we have international obligations and long-standing issues on torture. We're talking about individual cases. In general, that's not what claimants are relying on. They're relying on, as I say, that the treatment that they may get at home will not be as good as it is in the UK. That is clearly not right. What we have been able to do is we've really significantly increased the number of people that we've returned who've got no right to be here. That's at a 10-year high now of 50,000 since we took office, of which foreign national offenders is a really significant chunk. We will push very hard. One of the challenges we've got, which is why we're setting out what we're setting out today, Susanna, is that some of our international partners, where we have returns agreements, where we have good bilateral relationships, are not accepting their citizens who do not have a right to be in this country. That is wrong. So what we are announcing today is that we are willing to bring in very significant visa sanctions if they don't do that, meaning that people can't travel from those countries to this country, people can't come to do business from those countries. We need that participation so that we can do what I want to do, what you want to do, and what everybody in Britain wants to do, which is remove foreign offenders from this country.
Alex Norris, thanks very much indeed.